Welcome to Drill Down Earnings. We have the latest quarterly results from Teradyne, second quarter earnings from this company, an important company in semiconductor tests. So it's time for the business story behind one stock on the move. And yes, this stock is really moving. This is Cory Johnson here with Futurum market strategist. And a look at Teradyne earnings, an important company because they're, it's the kind of business you'd think would be going great guns because of all we're hearing about AI and semiconductors. And yet it has kind of struggled over the years. Wall Street likes a beat or a miss, and this is a big beat. So why is the stock also getting beaten? We got to look at the numbers a little more to understand that. So revenue and earnings above their guidance, $730 million in the quarter, up 7% on a year-over-year basis. And their big semiconductor test business doing quite well, up 14%. Look a little bit deeper behind the numbers. So 7% revenue growth overall for the whole business. That's kind of a sluggish recovery for a business that had been shrinking for quite some time. And their profitability, more profitable on an operating profit or an EBIT profit, if you wanted, 29% in the quarter. And that's a lot better than things have been, but not really accelerating like you might hope when you look at this business overall. And really, this is a business about semiconductor tests. So 75% of their revenues comes from semiconductor test. And semiconductor test is essentially just what it sounds like. They make sure the semiconductors that come off a production line are working before they are sold and put into devices. And what we see here is that they're just kind of struggling with this business. Now they're continuing to invest in R&D. Their R&D spending persists. Indeed, at 21% of revenues, it's kind of where it's been, but because revenues were so much higher this quarter, they were able to spend $112 million in R&D as they look towards the future here. And they talked about all these end markets like the high capacity DRAM, high bandwidth DRAM, I should say, that they're selling a lot into, as well as integrated supercomputer makers. They didn't use the phrase superconductor on the conference call, but they seem to suggest a company like NVIDIA that was doing all kinds of things, building new devices, and they're working with companies like NVIDIA. NVIDIA has told us that much. They also talked about their robotics business. Now I'll get to that in a second, but the stock sold off big time after these numbers came out because while the company had a great quarter, they did not really raise their guidance. In fact, they guided next quarter to be in a range where the mid-range of their guidance would be down on a quarter-over-quarter basis. So, that's not good. That's not what these guys are looking for. You'd think when the business is accelerating, it would keep accelerating, not one step forward and two steps back. So the stock sold off big time during the trading session today. As I record this at this moment, it's down 13%. And a stock that was up 25% for a year was now up only 10% because of today's sell-off. Now their robotics business, very interested. They acquired a robotics company a few quarters back. And while the stuff is really cool, the revenues have been shrinking here for some time now in this robotics business, despite having a lot of robots out in the field. The hope is actually because these robots have been out there for a while, that the service component of robot revenues, fixing robots, could be a significant business for Teradyne. Here's what CEO Greg Smith had to say when he was asked about how big is the business, how many installed robots do you have right now? And it's kind of a surprising number. And then when are these things going to need to get serviced?
We have on the order of 80,000 UR cobots out in the field, and probably on the order of 10,000 or more AMRs. The useful life of them is, we have cobots that were delivered, before Teradyne bought Universal Robots that are still being used. But most of our customers will depreciate the asset over about a 5-year period. So I think it's if you're trying to model sort of installed base decay, it's not a bad idea to look at maybe a 5 to 7 year life. I think, and you're going at this exactly the same way that we're thinking about it, that we look at the entire installed base, not just new equipment sales, as our total available market for service agreements. And we're also doing this service agreement build in alignment with the build out of our large account channel.
So 90,000 robots out there in the world, but not needing a lot of servicing yet. And that's bad news for Teradyne, strangely, the maker of those robots. All right, what's it all mean? The big drill on earnings takeaway, and one number that means a whole lot. I'm gonna have that number, the number I want you to remember when we think about what happened with Teradyne in this quarter. right after this.
The Drill Down is brought to you by Futurum Group, where analysts, researchers, advisors, content creators, and marketing experts help business leaders anticipate and understand shifts in their industries and build strategies to leverage disruptive innovation. With deep analysis, Futurum Group's extensive industry experience delivers reliable research and data, thought leadership, and actionable advice to help you with your strategy and go-to-market efforts. Futurum Group.
So Teradyne's second quarter earnings are out. The stock is really getting beaten up. Let's take a quick sort of high-level look at what's happening here. So $730 million in revenues, you'd think that's really good, but the sales recovery has been sluggish for this company, 7%. And their biggest business, however, the drill down earnings bite, is going to reflect that 14% growth on a year-over-year basis in their semiconductor test business. That's really good, but the rest of the business is dragging them down. The guidance was really weak for the coming quarter, and that's probably why the stock is selling off. All right, thanks for listening to Drill Down Earnings. I'm Cory Johnson. And you can follow me on X at Cory TV, Drill Down Pod on TikTok and Instagram, and of course, at 6.5 Media YouTube page, all kinds of earnings information. Follow us, like us, dislike us if you must, subscribe. Please tell us what you'd like to see from Drill Down Earnings.